Chatback on RCV News.
This time in Central Africa is 9:24. Good morning and welcome to today's edition of Chatback right here on Radio Christian Voice. My name is Angel Kasabo. Wherever you are tuned in from this morning, to you what, thank you so much, and always great to know that you are on board. Just a reminder that this conversation is also live on Facebook. On Facebook it is RCV News. RCV News is a platform where we post everything current affairs, so come through and let's get interactive. Then the number is 0956 200 490. 0956 200 490 is the number that you can get in touch with the studio. All right, so this morning we do have a great a topic. This morning we are looking at the Mealie Meal prices that we do have on the market. This is our topic of discussion, the Mealie Meal prices. And my guest this morning is the Millers Association of Zambia Maize President, Mr. Andrew Chintala. Sir, good morning and welcome to Chatback.
Good morning, Angel, and good morning, listeners and viewers. It's good to know that obviously people can also follow in on Facebook and other platforms. It's a pleasure being here. We're grateful for being invited, and I think this is, I hope we'll have a very good interaction with yourself as well as the public that obviously would like to participate in the program.
Yeah, so much. I remember the last time that we hosted you was sometime last year, and it's really been long overdue that we once again have you on the platform just to talk about issues, of course, that are affecting the citizenry. So thank you so much for accepting to our invitation. How are the millers doing this morning? I know you are always, in close contact, conversations with them. How are they doing this morning?
Well, we're busy. The millers are okay, and obviously it's a busy period. You know that 1st of May of each year obviously marks the calendar in terms of the beginning of the maize marketing season. So we're busy planning, obviously, for the season of 2024 to 2025. So it's a busy period for us. Everyone, I think, is busy sitting down to try and put up a plan under the current circumstances. So the millers are well and busy planning. Yeah.
All right. Our topic of discussion this morning is the Mealie Meal prices. And before that, I would like to get your reaction to some of, the happenings that we have seen, of course, that have an impact really on Mealie Meal, maize, and also on the millers because they are key stakeholders to this particular final product. But maybe to start with, news coming through from government, and just recently we saw that government has suspended duty on imported maize to ensure that Zambians have adequate food. Cabinet had approved the suspension of applicable import duty of 15% and surtax of 5% on the importation of maize to zero. So I'd like to know what you make of this particular happening.
Right. It's a very, very important question, and I'd like to probably react to it in this fashion. First of all, we expected that government, through the Ministry of Agriculture or Zambia Statistical Agency, would have announced the crop forecast survey results, which is more or less the balance sheet, the food balance sheet for the country. After announcing that, obviously you would have expected to see the production that is expected to come from the current crop, which is in the field, considering that we are now in the next cycle or next marketing season. It was expected that we would have received a crop forecast survey result, which would have actually given us details of what the country is expecting to produce in as far as maize and other crops or seasonal foodstuffs are concerned. Now, obviously, for government to take this step, I would want to believe that they have a privileged information in terms of having access to what the details of that crop forecast results would be. And obviously, before the crop forecast results are completed or the report is completed, I think the government obviously is trying to be proactive by coming in to ensure that we put in measures that will probably mitigate the anticipated reduction in terms of maize production, because this has actually been the discussion in the country, that the country actually is expecting a reduction in terms of maize production. But that is just a speculation because there is no official information that has been released so far to suggest or to indicate what sort of reduction is expected to be recorded. Now, with government coming in to announce the importation of maize, it falls within the line or the powers of the Minister of Agriculture under the the customs import duty, importation aspect. So under the Food Reserve Agency Act, the Minister of Agriculture is empowered by that act to ascertain the availability, and if you know that you expect a decline in terms of the production of a certain commodity, is empowered by that act to call for an importation. And what the minister is doing, I'm meant to believe that is actually enforcing that law within the Food Reserve Agency Act that empowers the Minister of Agriculture to inform the president about the situation, and the president now announces an emergency. Emanating from that, now you begin to put in measures, and that importation announcement that has come is just one of the measures in addressing the shortage that is anticipated. So as a result, I think would like to say, look, government has to be commended because we believe that the minister or government is acting on informed decision or from an informed position with regards to what the technocrats that are on the ground probably may have relayed to them to say, look, even before the report is done, we expect to have this decline. And as a result, obviously, government would not wait until the full report is done. Hence, they're being proactive to say, look, let's open the borders and be able to begin to source, because you know that Zambia is a non-GMO country, and as a result, you wouldn't wait until the last minute because you'll not be able to find non-GMO maize, especially in the region. So that step is commendable. Then the second thing that they've done is that they've suspended all the duties and taxes applicable to this commodity. You are aware that maize is actually falls under the Control of Goods Act, and for you to import maize, you need to get an import permit. So if you are importing maize in a normal year, it attracts duties and certain taxes. So when you are importing maize in a year of deficit, it's only prudent, it's only wise for a government to waive the duties. I know Honorable Msokotwane will not be happy because obviously is losing revenue that he should have collected. But this is a national issue, a national emergency, and therefore such a step is actually commendable, because what it's going to do is that it will actually help those that are importing to land the commodity at probably mostly an affordable price. So that step is actually commendable, because our concern has greatly been on the exchange rate. If you see, the exchange rate has been fluctuating. So now, if you are going to pay the duties, the taxes that are applicable to this maize, and now the exchange rate is misbehaving the way that it's behaving. Just the other day it was 27 kwacha to a dollar. Yesterday it was at 24. Who knows today what it? So it's a bit a very delicate moment and situation we're in as a country, but it's only, I think government must be commended for taking that step, because that is something that is within their control. Because when we discuss the exchange rate, it's beyond their control. So what they're able to control is the duties and the taxes. So that step, I think government must be commended, because if we import this commodity, obviously, with all the taxes and duties waived, it might land on the market at an affordable price.
Now, to the consumer, really, especially to the layman, there's a notion that everything that is imported becomes expensive over time. So to the layman, the question is, with the removal of this, a duty on this particular commodity, is it imminent that at some point the prices are going to go high because of this particular, importation of maize?
Right. It's a very, very good question. Again, you see, this transaction involves two currencies. One, the raw material that you are bringing in is dollar-based, and we have no control over the exchange rate. So where it goes and whether it goes up, it comes down, we have no control. And how I wish that the central bank would be able to probably lock in the exchange rate during this period. We have obviously experts in that field, obviously, that probably can speak to that. But all I'm saying is that this commodity that we're bringing in, the raw material, which is maize, is dollar-based. And now when you produce the finished product, which is Mealie Meal, we are selling it in kwacha.
Yeah.
So sometimes when there's kwacha devaluation, it becomes a problem. So it's a very difficult transaction, which obviously I cannot predict in terms of which direction it might go. But all things being equal, if the situation is that the dollar or the kwacha dollar, exchange rate normalizes, we expect that there could be some stability. But at the point when you begin to do the imports and the exchange rate, obviously the kwacha appreciates or gains, then you expect to see some gains in terms of getting the full benefits of the costs, which will be reflected on the product, which is a finished product. But this is a commodity that is...
It's a two-way thing.
It's a two-way thing.
But, you know, one is able to predict that, look, the kwacha hasn't been doing well for a long time. So already one is able to predict that, look, this imported maize, that's going to come, despite, you know, the removal of these duties, we still feel that it's going to be expensive over time.
Look, I agree with you.
Because even at 24, it's not like the kwacha is performing well even at 24.
No.
Even at 20. Others would argue that even at 20, the kwacha is still not performing too well.
Absolutely. You see, I feel for my brother, Den Kariele at Bank of Zambia. You know, Zambia is an importing country. We are importing maize, we are importing wheat, and we are importing fuel. All these three major commodities that we are bringing in require dollars for you to be able to bring them in. So meaning there is pressure on the demand for the hard currency during this period. So I pray that our governor and with the help of the Minister of Finance, I think they have a competent team that could probably put a plan together to ensure that we put mitigating measures to cushion the impact that may be caused as a result of these transactions. Because when there is a huge demand for Forex on the market, you expect the exchange rate to go up because of the demand. It's just a simple transaction, or rather understanding in terms of what goes on, obviously, in the money market. So having said that, yes, I agree with you in terms of the kwacha not performing. But look, we cannot predict what it would be like tomorrow. I think 2 days ago we're saying, look, where is it going? 27. We should be hitting 28, 30. And now just within 24 hours 25. It drops to 24. That instability as well, I think, is what is not healthy for these transactions that we're talking about. We must have a predictable kind of arrangement even in the money market, because if I'm taking a position on the quantity that I'm going to import, let's say on maize or wheat, I must be able to plan probably 2 to 3 months ahead. Because now, if I'm going to press an order today and the exchange rate is 24, and then by close of business today, the exchange rate goes to 28. Now, if you are going to continue with the importation, it means that there will be some instability and volatility in terms of your price movements and so forth. So this is why I'm saying that my appeal is to BLZ to say, look, can we sit together as the players who are involved in the current activities in terms of commodity importation? I know there's priority that has been given to the OMCs. There's also priority that has to be given now to us as millers in ensuring that we secure, first of all, we need to ensure that the dollars are available during this period for us to be able to meet the importation of these commodities that we're talking about. So I think it's paramount. It's of paramount importance for the Bank of Zambia, for the central bank, to move in now and see on how best possible we can lock the dollar and ensure that it remains stable. It's unhealthy. It's very, very unhealthy, because businesses will get hurt in the process. You know, it's not healthy to see today 24. Probably by the time we'll be closing, we'll be 28 and 27. So probably once these transactions kick in, we should be able to see some kind of stability. But even before we get to that, I think the central bank need to make certain interventions just to create some kind of stability so that it's predictable in terms of what we want to do and the direction that we want to take.
It becomes very complicated because this is just one factor of really asserting the Mealie Meal prices long term, especially this particular year. We haven't even come to the buying price. So already for a layman who's listening, they're already tightening up their belt to say this may be a little bit of a rough road ahead. But anyway, maybe let's get to the buying price. We saw the Food Reserve Agency that announced that a 50 kg bag of white maize will be being purchased at 330 or 6,600 kwacha per metric ton. And we saw, obviously, the farmer was very, very happy with this particular buying price, but also looking at the situation, we've had the drought, and there's an anticipated, there's much feeling that we're not going to have so much maize. So this is probably one of the factors or reasons why government has pegged a 50 kg bag of white maize at 330 kwacha. But from the millers, we do understand when the millers get into this market, they're not going to buy this commodity for 330 kwacha. It's obviously 340 kwacha going upwards, 350, 360, 370, depending on the area where they actually go and purchase this particular maize. 330, last year were 280. And now there's 330. From the miller's point of view, what is your reaction to this one?
Well, it's a good price. Okay, if you're going to talk about stability in terms of Mealie Meal prices, or probably getting affordable prices of the commodity. Now, what that entails is that I think the agency may have obviously considered a number of things. You are aware that it's not only Zambia that is actually in a situation we're in. Our neighboring countries, Malawi, Zimbabwe, they're equally faced with the same challenge that Zambia has. And Malawi, they had already announced, I think, before even the Food Reserve Agency came in. But again, obviously, I wouldn't want to say that the price that FRA announced is the price that they are going to be buying the commodity at during this season. You know that FRA announces, I think they buy about three commodities, maize, soya, as well as rice. So whenever they announce that, obviously, I think they'll touch and talk about all these things. I don't know whether that is now their style or fashion of announcing the price, but I don't believe that that's the price which was announced. But suffice to say that if it's the price that FRA has announced, I still feel that it still remains a good price, owing to what is currently happening in the region. Because if you look at Malawi, the price that they've announced is 450, an equivalent to our currency.
450
kwacha. Maize, a 50 kilogram bag. So now what that would do is that our farmers who are based on the eastern circuit will be obviously attracted to the price that is coming next door. So by FRA coming with that price is trying to say, look, we are giving you at least something better,
something
even if we do not exactly. But now, if you look at the two countries, if we were to compare probably Malawi and Zambia, maybe and Zimbabwe, you find that if you go to Zimbabwe, they'll buy maize for any price because minimum prices are not controlled. In short, there are no subsidies. So whatever it is that you buy, that's exactly what you get on the shelf. So they run a different kind of marketing arrangement in as far as commodity trading is concerned. But in our case, we are quite conscious with what price that you offer in the market because it's a double-edged sword. The farmers will be happy, and on the other side, the consumers, exactly, it will have an impact. But FRA must be commended for, I think, having offered that price, and I think it's a price that probably will be able to bring some kind of leverage or some sanity in as far as the trading aspect of this commodity is concerned. Clearly, we're expected a deficit, and I think it's from that call. I would like also to call on the Minister of Agriculture and Zambia Statistical Agency to quickly release the food balance sheet because, again, you see, if you were
Are you surprised that the balance sheet hasn't yet been announced?
I'm actually not surprised. I'm disturbed.
You're disturbed?
I'm disturbed because, you see, what is informing the decisions that have to make is just speculation. Okay, without that information, it's very difficult for you to plan. And therefore, it becomes apparent that the Minister of Agriculture quickly, together with Zambia Statistical Agency, release the food balance sheet so that people are able to make informed decision. That's a very important document, or rather information, that informs us.
Why do you think they've taken this long? Because now what's happening is that people actually now, like you said, speculation. They don't know what's happening. They don't know how much we have. They don't know what's going on, and then now there's panic, and when there's panic, you know what happens in your sector when there's panic.
Right. It's very important. Obviously, I wouldn't answer and speak for the Ministry or Zambia Statistical Agency as to what has delayed us. You see, this is not an ordinary year where you could actually delay things. I expected I expected at the moment the president had announced had announced an emergency in terms of the food situation in the country, would have expedited the process of verifying or of taking stock of the damage that the drought would have caused, so that we quickly come up even with a preliminary report that should have been released, so that the players, the stakeholders have got information, and based on the information you are able to make informed decisions, because these are businesses. So for you to take a position in the market, you need to be informed by statistics. We don't work with speculations. Figures don't lie, and I believe that if there is anything that will make you fail or tick, will be the statistics. Because if I come here and give you wrong statistics, I'll come back and sit here again, probably even after 12 months, obviously almost the same period, and then you'll be able to ask me questions I'll not be able to defend. But if I'm using the statistics and I'm speaking from the strength of being informed, it makes my decisions sound, because when I come back and I say whatever it is that I have to say in terms of even making commitments, it will be very clear because I'm speaking from an informed position. So it becomes of paramount importance once again that this information be released as quickly as possible, because like you've said, yes, there are speculations. Someone was asking me yesterday, what does this mean now? The agency FRA is going to import maize about 650,000 metric tons. Does it mean the country will not harvest anything from what was there? And obviously that person, I looked at him and I said, look, you are right, actually, because obviously you do not have the information, because the only thing that you have is that the government is going to import 650, and the millers have equally been allowed to import as well as the traders. So in terms of the quantums of what will come in the country, what the millers may bring in and the traders, that hasn't been made known, because we need to take a position once the crop forecast survey results are released. So I strongly feel that we need to release that information as quickly as possible, because that is information that will actually answer and respond to some of the concerns that we may have and some of the consumers out there would probably have. But suffice to say that I would like to speak to what I know the country is currently holding in terms of what I would call the carryover stock from the last marketing season. We are still comfortable. Obviously, even when we talk about the imports, it's not like we need this maize like today. No. This is maize that will be consumed probably in the near future, let's say August or maybe November, September going forward. So for now, the country still have, I think, a very good position in terms of the maize situation. So it's an assurance to the consumers and the nation that there's no need for us to get into panic. Yes, the imports are happening. Government is being proactive, not like we do not have anything. And the figures that government has announced that they import through the Food Reserve Agency, that's an internal decision made by a government and the agency. So in as far as we are concerned as the milling industry, we'll be able to make a position once the food balance sheet is also announced. Let's talk about really something that, of course, the end consumer wants to know. Let's say, for instance, the buying price has been announced at 330 kwacha, right? Millers, let's say, for instance, are going to go in 350, 340. At the current 280 that FRA announced, that's in the last crop marketing season, we see Mealie Meal prices range from 250, depending on where you are, to
about maybe 350. I'm actually hearing reports of even 380 in places like Chavuma. So let's say 250, around 250 to 250, 350 kwacha. When the buying price was 280. Now the buying price is at 330 kwacha. That's for a 50 kg bag of white maize. Is this a clear indication that the prices of the end product, Mealie Meal, is going to go up? I know as millers, you probably seated there and you're doing your math and you're saying, look, this already, we're already going to set X amount of whatever price it is.
Right. The dynamics in the industry are quite enormous, but one of the key factors in terms of determining your price of a finished product is basically maize, which is the raw material. But in this case, we are not just even looking at the price of maize. You are looking at the cost of your electricity. You are looking at, obviously, the impact of load shedding. Yeah, you are looking at the cost of fuel. Now, the price that FRA has announced in real sense, looking at commodity prices, that is fertilizer, seed, all these commodities have also gone up. They have appreciated in terms of pricing. Now, it's very interesting. I've always said this, that look, if I were to take off my my safari jacket here and you were to look at the scars that I carry behind here, I carry a lot of scars as compared to the person that is in fertilizer business, because you don't see them. So when they push the prices of fertilizer and the seed producers push the prices of seed, you are not going to see them. The interface that is there between the producers of these commodities is the millers, and the consumers out there. So when the consumers are looking me in my eye, they're saying this man is evil. And then if I have to take the whip, I have to take all the whips for the fertilizer guy, for the seed producer, even for the farmer who's producing, because you don't get to see them. So all these, we take them, and then when we are criticized and we are being told all these things, people forget and they do not want to take into account what are the costs, build-up costs that obviously go into Mealie Meal production. So no. I think that's what leadership calls for. So I mean, how I wish that probably the fertilizer guys would also come in and explain. So what I'm trying to say is that the price that FRA has announced is justified in a way, because obviously that justifies the cost of maize production. That's at primary level for the farmer. So the farmer is happy, I'm sure, with that price. And now we are looking at obviously the consumers. Will the consumers be happy? But unfortunately, we need to face the reality. The commodity prices are moving not only in Zambia but world over. So as a result, looking at the price again, when FRA announces or when we enter the market, for example, this is May. When we get into the market now, the price at which we are entering with on the market as the millers will continue to appreciate as the market is progressing. So the price, unfortunately or fortunately for maize, is not static, as it were. So FRA will come in with one price, and that will be the price that they'll go with throughout the marketing season until they stop buying. Unfortunately for us, when you are not buying today, you need to check what your next door neighbor is doing. If he's two kwacha ahead of you, what do? You also increase by 2 kwacha or even 3. So it's a competition, I think, that we are in. So as a result of that, this is why that you see that the prices, you just give me the prices of the finished product compared to the price of the raw material. So the prices actually gravitate. They actually change as the markets are progressing. So it is never static. And this is why you see that in most cases during the marketing season, there are price movements depending on what you are putting in or buying for your maize, because obviously there's what we call replacement cost as well. So today your price would be 3 kwacha or 300 kwacha or 350 a bag. Tomorrow the price would be 370. So when you're replacing your maize, it means that the prices are changing. And as a result, you need to continue moving with the price movements on the market in order for you to remain in business. Otherwise, if you remain static and your price is 350, now the next batch that you bring in is 380 or 400, 100, then it means you'll not be able to replenish your stocks.
Yes, so maybe to put a cap on this, it's imminent that Mealie Meal prices are going to go up.
Well, with the current arrangement, there's an importation window that has been opened. And for me, obviously, I would restrict myself from quickly commenting on that one, because what is going to inform the decision is basically what the country will actually harvest and obviously what needs to come in. You know, if we were to go by the principle of market forces, the demand and supply principle, you'll be able to only determine that by what is going to come off the fields, or rather off the current maize that is actually being harvested now. So it is, I think it would be folly for me to come and say, hey, prices are going to go up.
Yeah,
because there are so
Chintala,
many
if we compare
factors.
it to last year, 280, one would argue that load shedding we never had load shedding, maybe last year, maybe only towards the end of the year, and then the fuel prices were not as high as they are now. You've already talked about how electricity is very important for the millers.
Right.
Fuel prices also have an impact.
I agree with you 100%.
And then with this 330, don't you think it's just...
No, I agree with you 100%. There will be price movements. But to what extent, obviously, that we cannot determine now. I agree that there will be price movements because of a number of factors. Electricity is one of them that I just pointed out. Two, obviously, the price at which we are going to enter the market with in terms of buying maize as millers. Three, the price of fuel, because you see, again, my appeal to the Energy Regulation Board, and I think Minister of Energy, Peter Kapala, the President really also underscored this point, and I've been on so many different forums asking ERB, we need to have even a quota system of pricing. You can't afford to have these monthly price reviews of fuel, because this is hurting us. It's affecting businesses. How do I plan long term? So you can't plan long term, you have to plan short term. I hope ERB and the minister responsible of energy would adhere and heed to the president's directive that, look, you need to find a mechanism of aging that, of doing even quarterly price reviews.
Does that also explain why sometimes you find a bag of Mealie Meal 330 tomorrow, 350,
exactly.
the other day 360, the other day 340?
Absolutely, because you see, the other component that goes into your Mealie Meal costing or the costing structure is transport, which you cannot afford to ignore. You are bringing in the raw material from the rural areas. You are also taking this commodity after you add value to distribution centers. So there's fuel, there's transportation involved in the transaction. So when you want to review these things on a monthly basis and the prices are going upwards, what do you expect? You expect prices to also go up for your finished product. So these fluctuations are not healthy, especially that we are in a period where things where things are tough, and we are talking about importing certain commodities. It's important that the Energy Regulation Board, together, I would say the Minister of Energy, in this case, Honorable Peter Kapala, moves in, as well as, just like I'm calling out on the Minister of Agriculture to release the food balance sheet, I'm calling on the Bank of Zambia and Minister of Finance to also find measures of ensuring that we cushion the impact on the consumers. This is an emergency period we are in. It's not a normal year. So there are certain interventions that need to be carried out. It's not business as usual. And this is why we need to put these things into practice.
You actually talked about scars. Maybe just to add another one.
Right.
You've really been accused of exploiting the consumer. And remember that sometime, I think last year, the vice president was on the floor of the House in the National Assembly. And she also made a similar statement that, she felt there could be some exploitation here and there. But then also that's a narrative that has been sold to the layman. That's a narrative. When they look at you, Mr. Chintala, they're saying, look, this man has been exploiting us. Where do you think these conversations are coming from? Because then it was from those allegations that they said, look, we need ZNS to come on the scene and help out with the situation.
Right. Very, very important question. I'm happy that you've raised it. Look, Angel, I'll tell you this. If millers, private millers, in this case, have been exploiting the consumers. I'm very happy, obviously, that ZNS has come on the market. Okay, why am I happy that ZNS isn't there? The moment they entered into the market with a price as low as $2.30 for the breakfast Mealie Meal and $1.90 for the roller meal, what were the prices for the millers, commercial millers? Our prices were ranging between $2.50 and $2.70. And what has happened? Our prices have continued going up because we are responding to the market prices or forces. In this case, at that time when ZNS came on the market, we were buying maize at 7 kwacha or 7,000 a ton. Okay, and now as the market was progressing, we were buying maize at 9.5 kwacha, or call it 9,500 kwacha a ton.
So it increased.
And yes, and the ZNS.
Okay, let's do this.
Right.
Let's pick it up from this particular item. The time is 9:59, so I have to break off for the news. All right. So in case you're just tuning in, you are listening to Wednesday's edition of Chatback, and this morning we are looking at the Mealie Meal Prices. My guest this morning is the Millers Association of Zambia MAZ President, Mr. Andrew Chintala. Up next is the news. Follow this conversation just after the news. Good morning.
Chatback on RCV News.
This morning we are looking at the Mealie Meal Prices. My guest this morning is the president from the Millers Association of Zambia, Mr. Andrew Chintala. He is our guest this morning to help us look at this particular, item, just to understand why, Mealie Meal prices are fetching for, if it's a 280, if it's a 300, he's with us just to look at this particular topic. And a reminder that this conversation is live on Facebook. On Facebook, you can go to RCV News. RCV News is a platform where we post everything current affairs. So come through and let's get interactive. Then the number is 0956 200 490, 0956 200 490. I'm getting your text messages on that number, and then later on we'll open the phone lines, give an opportunity to have a conversation with our guest this morning. All right, Mr. Chintala, let's get back to the conversation. And we ended on, reports of, millers exploiting
right.
Consumers.
Right.
And you're just,
I hope I haven't lost my thought there.
Yeah, but, same here.
I'll pick it up. What I'm saying is that, government decided, obviously, to use the Zambia National Service. Which is Eagle Millers or Milling, as a special purpose vehicle for them to deliver Mealie Meal to a majority of our citizens that were having a challenge in terms of accessing commercially produced Mealie Meal. There are no ill intentions there. I think that must be my starting point. I'm happy that ZNS actually was brought on board.
The millers are happy.
Yes, ZNS came on board for one simple reason. There has been a misconception with regards to the pricing of Mealie Meal by the commercial millers. And now, what I'm saying I'm happy is that, look, ZNS has been on the market from the time that they entered the market with with one price of $2.30 for breakfast and $1.90 for roller meal. Across the country. Okay. Now, the price when ZNS entered the market was ranging between $2.50 and $2.30. Today, as I'm sitting here, you find some other products or brands are selling around $300, $315, $356. Why are we not being pressured? Why are we not being influenced to reduce the price? Because if you look at the price margins between Eagles and commercially produced Mealie Meal, the margins are quite huge. And for you, if you are if you are a businessman and you are extorting or exploiting consumers, when you receive such competition, what happens? Your prices will begin to crumble. Your prices will begin to come down because you cannot survive in the market. But however, notwithstanding the fact that we, in a way, working with ZNS, that has just proven and proved the point that we do not extort or exploit the consumers, because we are selling the commodity and struggling so to sell the commodity because we have competition of a cheaper product. And the normal thing for one to do, one would think, is that the millers are going to reduce the prices. We are not reducing the prices because the price at which we are paying and buying our maize at is higher than what ZNS is accessing. That's a simple explanation. So therefore, my price is being informed by the market price of maize, not basically by what Eagles is doing. So if you remember, for instance, in the past, there are some commercial millers that got involved into such transactions with government. Not all the millers, some of the millers, they benefited from such arrangements before. And now, even now, I can tell you that there are some of my members that we've given ZNS to help them run this program. There were millers who did not have sufficient stocks. And what was going to happen with the coming in of ZNS is that they were not going to manage the competition. In the end, they would have closed down and sent the people home. And what we said is that, look, such millers who are struggling, here's an opportunity, because ZNS or Eagles Milling does not have the capacity. Get into partnership and do what we call the toll milling. The Mealie Meal that is being produced by Eagles is basically not by Eagles Mills, milling machines or companies, because ZNS only owns 3 milling companies, one in Monze, one in Chongwe here, and one in Mpika. Now, if you look at the country and the population that you need to feed, they have no capacity. This is why we have some of our members that have gotten on the program to try and help to drive the government program. So there is partnership there. We're working with government to try and help.
Some commercial millers are producing
Eagles. Yes.
Giving it back to ZNS then
for distribution in the market.
Okay.
Exactly. In order to have a wider reach out or outreach or network in terms of distribution. So now, as it is very, very unfounded, and I think I find those allegations, especially when they come to certain people in society and come and level such an argument or an allegation against my members and against me as a commercial miller, to be to be unfounded, and I think very careless.
Yeah, because that's the narrative that
yes,
you have.
Yes.
That look, you for some people they say millers, the milling companies are selfish because they prioritize profit over protecting, the citizenry. That's the narrative.
Absolutely. There could have been that perception when you do not understand what goes on. So even now, as we are talking about electricity prices going up, fuel prices going up, the load shedding and all that, if you put all these impacts, I talked about the cost of inputs as well. If you lump them together, package them and do your costings, you realize that the price at which the millers are getting is covering all these costs that I'm talking about. You will not be able to see Zesco. You will not be able to see, obviously, the filling station there. You will not be able to see the farmer there. You will not be able to see the seed producer there. You will not be able to see. All you see is a bag and the final price that is tagged on the price of Mealie Meal. It is therefore very careless, and I would like to urge to our leaders and to some of the people that comment on these issues who have no competence. Let people that are competent comment on matters that they fully understand. Because when you make careless statements such as that allegation against the millers, look, we are involved in what I call the van sales distribution of Mealie Meal on a daily basis. We load Mealie Meal in the trucks and we drive in townships in George, Kanyama, in all the townships in Lusaka and some other places, Copperbelt, and so we are trying to bring the Mealie Meal closer to the community. Now, when you make such careless statements that millers are exploiting consumers, you are putting my members of staff's lives at risk, because when they drive into these compounds and people say, no, Batibela, they are exploiting us and all that, my Mealie Meal will be rooted. My property will be damaged. So I call on the leaders and those that are commenting on the issues they don't understand to refrain. If they want to comment, please engage us for you to be able to understand our cost structures. We are not bad people. We are very, very considerate. Even now, the current Mealie Meal prices, it has affected me. I may have the privilege to access Mealie Meal from any of these milling companies that are under me that I can consume. But how many of my relatives are buying it off the shelf. At what price? So we are equally affected as producers. So when prices move and our Mealie Meal is not moving in the shelves, it affects us because you see, you are not able to get your return.
Yeah.
So the margins on the Mealie Meal production or cost is that the more you sell, the more return that you get out of it. So now imagine you take your commodities, let's say even in the chain stores, you take your truck loaded with, let's say 40 bags of Mealie Meal.
Yeah.
It goes out every day to sell. You only sell 5 or 10 bags and 30 bags are coming back at the plant. Do you know that? Do you think is that a good thing that the millers would want to see? No. All you want is that when the truck leaves, it should come back empty. But we're sending a truck with 40 bags, it comes back with 35 or comes back with 20 bags. Why? Because the price and the competition is stiff. And as a result, the thing that one would have done is to reduce the prices. We are not, because of the cost that we have to incur.
Yeah.
So there's no exploitation.
Yeah, but then you've talked about how you're happy that ZNS has come on the scene. This competition that ZNS has come and given the private millers, there's been assertions that look, we may just have a private sector that's going to collapse because of ZNS milling, because they're offering a cheaper price. We've seen photos of how people are queuing up for that particular product because it's slightly cheaper. Do you feel the private millers or the private sector in this particular arrangement are in danger of maybe a total collapse, seeing the pressure that ZNS has come with onto the market?
That's why stakeholders' engagement is quite key. And I just mentioned that we've had some of our millers, private millers, that have partnered with ZNS during the period when they did not have sufficient stocks in terms of getting into the market. Now we're getting into the 2024-2025 maize marketing season. We expect new maize to start coming on the market. We expect to import maize on the market to meet your demand and to meet for you to get stocks to support your production. I expect millers to participate fully and very actively during this maize marketing season. The reason why some of the private millers have even gone into the ZNS partnerships is very simple. You see, most of the millers do not have sufficient storage spaces. And this is an eye-opener to some of those that want to get into this business. You need to invest in your storage space, because if you do not buy enough to support your production, when you have competition like ZNS coming in, you'll be the first to be injured, because you do not have the commodity, and especially that you are buying hand to mouth. Every other day you have to buy, and then there's no commodity to buy, or the commodity prices just keep moving. You will not be able to chase the price and be able to compete favorably. This is why it's inevitable. This is an opportunity not only to the millers but to the private investors to look at investing
as an opportunity.
Yes, to look at the space of investing into storage space in Zambia, because what that means is that some millers were like just depending on FRA, and FRA now has not been able to offload. What has happened? Some have been affected and others are still operating. So for us, the capacity that Eagle's Mealie Meal milling has is not even something that really should scare the private guys to say we need to pack up. They don't have the capacity, one. So, but obviously this is a special purpose vehicle that has to drive a government program. World over, I think I would like to say this, world over, when government sets out incentives, it should cut across the players within the space. And I hope that with the imports happening, with the maize that is coming off the fields going forward, should there be such interventions, I think we'll have a more involving arrangement where we'll be able to see. You see, our distribution network is countrywide and it's quite huge, and therefore we have the muscle. But all we are saying is that with the ZNS, let's not look at ZNS to be our enemy. They are our allies, because we've given in some of our players to try and help them. They are also helping our players by keeping the jobs that should have been lost because some millers would not have that. Some of these
private millers come to you and say, look, Mr. President, ever since ZNS came onto the scene, we have seen sales drop.
Absolutely. That is there to see. We are seeing that, and this is why I'm saying, look, Angel, I send a truck. I send maybe 10 trucks in different directions every day with 40 bags loaded on each truck every day. And then they only sell 10, 15 and you are bringing 30. And now there is a commodity that you offload on the market and people have to queue because they want to pick a bag. Now, unfortunately, this is something that we're trying to address, and I hope that my elder brother, I call him my son, General Solochi, who is an elder from SDA, we need to address. Those queues are necessary in the chain stores. You know why?
No.
We can actually address that by taking this commodity to the compounds. When you go in these chain stores, you won't find a person wearing a safari suit, or I won't find you queuing up in there. You'd rather pass that queue. There are other commodities, pick it up, buy it, and walk out of the shops. Most of these that are queuing up, they'll be there at 7 hours. They'll be there at 6 hours. These are coming from places like Marapodi.
I actually had a conversation with them, and they said the reason why we queue up and come this early is because by 12, this commodity would have been done.
Absolutely. But again, people need to be very honest. They are taking advantage of a good intention from government you see, you can't tell me today you are in the queue, at Monday you're buying a bag you buy. Again in the afternoon you hear in Cairo Road ShopRite, the same person comes there to buy. And then you hear again, as long as you hear the ZNS, people actually going and trying to get it. We are creating this artificial challenge on the market, and that has put pressure on ZNS, because when they offload, they expect to say this should be able to cater for the next 2-3 days. But the moment they offload it, within 30 minutes, the Mealie Meal vanishes on the market. Why? There's that anxiety, and there are people that are dishonest who are actually getting this to resell. The same bag that is $230, I've received calls from some of the consumers and from some of even government workers saying, look, is it allowed for Eagles to sell at $270 and $230 and all that? But when you have a commodity that is cheaper on the market compared to others, what will happen is that you create distortions. People will get it and resell it. Either they will rebag it or sell it from the same bag at a much higher price, because they'll tell you to say, I got it from Mandayo, and therefore you don't expect me, I'm selling it in Kanyama that I should sell for I need to put a margin. So the price discrepancy between the two commodities is quite huge. And this is something that has to be addressed, because the price of maize that Eagles is accessing is been very stable at the same level. It has never changed, and our prices have been moving. Hence, you see the price movements.
Yeah, you've talked about how you're seeing this as an opportunity. Private millers can partner with ZNS, but also you've you've agreed that, look, some millers have called me and said, ever since ZNS came onto the scene, sales have dropped. How long would you love to see ZNS on the market? Because for starters, we were told it was temporal, just to ensure that the price of Mealie Meal is stable. How long would you love to see them on the market?
Look, this program is not sustainable.
ZNS program.
Yes, it's not sustainable. That is the reality. We as Zambians and we as a people need to face the reality. The commodity prices are moving. And therefore, to have, look, the new Dawn government is very clear in terms of subsidies. Why have the electricity tariffs been adjusted? Why is fuel prices moving and fluctuating? Because they have removed the subsidy, even on the agriculture commodities. And as such, people need to begin to appreciate, to say, this is the reality. Angel, the
reality is painful.
Yes, it's painful. And change is inevitable, but change is painful. But over time, people will begin to appreciate, to say, look, you want to grow the sector. You want to see maize production move from the current 2.2 million or 3 million, call it that way, to 10 million. The president has made it very clear. He says by 2027, Zambia should be able to produce 10,000 metric tons of maize. Now, how are you going to inspire and encourage the producers of maize to do more if you want to keep the price of the finished product and just step on the price and it shouldn't go? What is going to attract you to get into maize production? It is the good price that you are selling for your maize. It's a price that the millers are able to buy and be able to sell
at
the Mealie Meal.
At the expense of the consumer?
No. Look, not at the expense of the consumer. You see, we're trying to balance this out from the wrong end. Look, because your salary has not been increased for the last 2 years, 3 years, and therefore you expect the Mealie Meal prices not to move. It's very unfair. we are contributing to the economy of the country. If we are going to divert and move the economy from depending on copper and all that and move it to the agriculture sector, let's allow the agriculture sector to grow. The government, the new Dawn government means well. And the president says, look, let's look at agriculture. Let's grow Look at the interventions that have been made in the agriculture space. And now you want to hold the price and push it.
But then also, how do we strike a balance between us wanting that particular sector to grow and also protecting the consumer? Because in all honesty, in as much as people want to buy this ZNS Mealie Meal in bulk, then resell it, there are also others that just can't afford, and they just have to be on that queue because it's slightly cheaper.
We are the government. Let's not be unfair to ourselves. A social program, a social need requires a social intervention. You have the Ministry of, Community and Social Development? This is a ministry that should be seen to be addressing such social needs. Why do you want to use a commercial transaction to respond to a social program? It doesn't work like that. Even in perfect economies, even in small economies like ourselves, you can't use a commercial transaction to respond to a social need. This is why even within in-house, in our businesses, we have a budget line that goes and that talks about corporate social responsibility. There are things we do and budget for, which we have to do to assist the communities from where we operate from. And it is imperative that there is that budget every day. And now even the government has realized there are people who can't afford. Look, the Minister of Community, I think, and Social Services was talking about increasing the social cash transfer. And I think maybe what the Minister of Community and Social Services should do, it is to put a bit of details. If the social cash transfer, I don't know, is it 400 now, 700? I don't know what it is. Call it 500 kwacha. If it's 500 kwacha, what is it? Let's not call it 500 kwacha. If you are receiving it, Angel, to say this is something to help you, what is it? Is it a bag of Mealie Meal? Is it cooking oil? Is it sugar? So it should have a detail to it. Let's not just get it as 500 kwacha. If you are receiving such supports from the government, we need to call it. Is it to buy seed? Is it to buy fertilizer? Let's name it. Because if we are saying we have increased by 500, and now you are saying the cost of Mealie Meal is 600, that's just an example. And you are receiving, and somebody says, no, they are receiving the support. What support are you receiving? Let us put the detail to this support that we are getting. And therefore, I'm a very strong advocate to say, look, commercial transaction must be left to be commercial transactions, and the social programs or transactions must be treated as such. And therefore, it is imperative that we separate the two. The transactions that are being undertaken by ZNS, this is a government-owned institution, and therefore, obviously, there are certain costs and all that obviously ZNS does not incur that a commercial player does. And therefore, if you look at these all transactions, it creates some kind of unfairness or distortion in the market. But all we are saying is that this is a special purpose vehicle that has to address a certain challenge for a certain period. I don't think, ZNS previously, before this intervention, they were participating. They were producing Mealie Meal and selling. Were they cheaper than us? We were almost at par. The prices were same with ourselves, and they were also competing. When whatever goes on in the market, they were getting the shocks. It's only now that the intervention has been created in order to address the concern that came and that has been before government. And that's why they were brought in.
You've talked about some of the costs that you really need to incur before this particular price is put on the commodity. But I know maybe this may not happen, but just to understand from you, you've talked about the buying price is one factor really when coming up with the end a price for Mealie Meal. You've talked about fuel. You've also talked about electricity, but would like to understand what is it going to take for the prices of Mealie Meal to come down? Is it that both these have to respond, the buying price? Do we have to make it cheaper? Do we have to have cheaper fuel? Do we have to have cheaper electricity? Or maybe there's one factor here that can, maybe let's say, for instance, the buying price. Let's say we put it at 200 kwacha. Is it going to be enough to have that, a reduction in the cost of mealie meal? Because in as far as we've heard from you, the agriculture sector has to grow, and therefore the prices have to be competitive so that we bring everyone on board. It becomes more attractive. But then the consumer is really worried, because then if you're talking about everyone to come on board, then the consumer is going to be buying for this commodity for 400 kwacha, for arguments, maybe just to put a price. So then what has to be done for these mealie meal prices to come down? Is it all these maybe three factors that I've said? Do they all have to respond, or there's just one factor that can respond and then we see the mealie meal prices come down?
One, the major thing that we need to do as a country is to increase productivity. Mm-hmm. A farmer invests in a one acre piece, and then you harvest 1.7 metric tons. When you are supposed to harvest even about 4.5 tons, already at harvesting or production level, you are down by 3 tons or 2-point-something tons. There lies in the problem. Because when you bring in your commodity now, you would want to recover from the little harvest that you have. You would want to ensure that you bring out and recover all your input costs that went into maize production. And there lies in a problem, because when you come on the market, you'll be looking at the demand, not basically necessarily the cost of production. So you are ramping up everything on a bag where you are supposed to get, for example, 30 bags and you harvested 10. Now you want to maximize on your low productivity so that you recover everything that went in there. Therefore, the answer to all these things we're discussing, it is in increasing productivity. And I would like to see the Minister of Agriculture together with Minister of Finance sitting together and saying, look, the same way Zambia has been recruiting nurses on an annual basis, the same way Zambia has been recruiting police officers, the same way Zambia has been recruiting teachers, let's recruit the extension officers, because this is key and we've neglected it over the years. And I would expect the Minister of Agriculture to advocate for that, because it is only when you bring in a lot of extension officers to help the farmers in putting the good farming practices into effect that is going to improve productivity. We look at the commodity prices. Unfortunately, yes, we've seen there is one fertilizer plant that has come up producing, but look, we are an importing country. We are always importing fertilizer and all that. I'm glad to say that, look, we as a country, we are actually making or manufacturing seed, maize seed, soya, and we are also exporting. This is what we want to see. And now, if you look at all these things happening, it means that as a country, we have made so much progress. The only space that obviously remains obviously a challenge to us is the fertilizer that obviously goes into primary production. But the number one thing that we need to address is to ensure that we increase productivity. There is a farmer, and I keep talking about him. Now, there's a second farmer that has emerged in the northwestern province. The first one, I think, was Mr. Kalota, and there's another one, I've forgotten his name, I hope I can remember. Is this current season, he's saying is expecting not less than 10 tons per hectare. And I said, that's what we want to do. If you go there, he's not using any mechanization in the farming or in the production of maize. He's using 10 sets of oxen that is pushing the plows and all that. 10 animals to produce maize. This is something that we are doing everywhere. But if he's able to get it, 1 hectare is giving you 10 tons. Surely, if we can move in from 1.7 to 5 metric tons, you know what? We'll have bumper harvest in this country.
So the answer is productivity.
Yes. So once we
not the buying price,
no productivity. When we produce, you see, it's a principle of mass production. These are things I learned in grade 4. So the more you produce, the price, because now it means your production is going to outlive the demand. So when that happens, it means the price of whatever commodity will be stable, and then whatever price I'm going to sell my produce, I'll be able to recover my input because I'm getting more from a small piece which was giving me less and now it's giving more. It's a simple thing that needs to be done, but this can only be addressed through the support that you get through extension officers and extension services.
Yeah, to address the Mealie Meal prices really that most Zambians feel are high. Would you be open to such an initiative? This is one recommendation that I got from an opposition political leader to say, look, FRA says, Millers, we don't want you to buy any maize from anyone across the country. FRA is going to mop up all the maize from all the farmers in the country. I know there's going to be issues of storage. Then Millers buy from FRA at a cheaper price. Let's say, for instance, they're giving this 330. Maybe for argument's sake, you buy it at 250. 250 for a 25 kg bag. So that it has sort of an impact or a bearing on the final price of Mealie Meal. As Millers, would you be open to such an arrangement?
Look, we are open to any progressive advice and idea. But I would like to remind you, Angel, and that leader and probably the listeners, that Zambia operates within the free market economy. Therefore, you do not dictate the prices. Only when the need arises, and that again squarely falls within the Minister of Agriculture under the Food Reserve Agency Act of 2020, I think number 6 of 2020. Now, what that tells you is that, look, if FRA is going to buy all the maize in the country, the first question one will ask is that, do they have the capacity? That's number one. Two, it's not only the millers that are involved in maize purchasing in the country, you have the traders as well. What really, the suggestion that is coming on board has happened before, where FRA offloads at a certain price and recommend a price, and that has helped us to keep the price or to cap the price for over the period. Now, the question I would like to ask consumers or probably listeners out there, even the opposition leader that probably brought in that suggestion, what has, if we go 10 years or even 5 years back, there's been some years where we've not had conversation, where I'm sitting here and justifying the prices. Markets were operating and working very well because production was okay. We had all these things, and therefore there was no need. We are having these conversations because we are in a most difficult period where you anticipate the deficit and the commodity is not available and as such. And these are just simple basics of the economic fundamentals that when the commodity is in short supply, you expect the prices to fluctuate and all that. So a price of a commodity is determined between the demand and supply side of things. There you find an equilibrium in terms of what the price should be. And what is determining the price, fortunately for us, is the market, not even me, not even one Miller B. No, it's the market itself that is telling us that. So you take a position to say, look, I'm not going to buy maize because the price is 9 kwacha. Therefore, I cannot compete because there is Mealie Meal that is selling cheaper. That's a business decision. You say, look, I'm going to try to buy the maize, whatever the price is, I'll try and push because I know my commodity, rather my product is stronger. So as we go forward in terms of such proposals, I think we are open to such engagements. But what we don't want to see is to stifle, it is to cloud out private sector, because the country, the industry has made so much progress in as far as development and investment is concerned in the agriculture sector. And it will be very sad, and I'll be the sad person really to see that the progress that the country has made over the years, an installed capacity of 4.7 million metric tons of maize crushing capacity. The country requires only maybe 2 million. It's 1.8, but call it 2 million. You have a surplus capacity of 2.7, which obviously if you maximize, you move that production even to 70% of meal utilization. We'll take care of Congo. We'll take care of these other neighboring countries. And now we want to do ourselves a disservice? No. The response there is no. So the intervention that the government has taken, has made currently, is to address a certain issue which has been before us. Now we are into the maize marketing season where the markets now are opening. People will go on the market and buy. And what will determine the participation and the pricing of this is what the farmers will be asking for.
Yeah. One last question before we get to our callers. With all things being equal, load shedding, fuel prices, we've seen how the kwacha has been performing, the buying price has been given. With all those things being equal, are the Mealie Meal prices expected to go up? I know you're not going to give us a figure, but with all these things being equal.
Right in the midst of all these things, I think these are challenges that we have to face. Unfortunately, we need to hold the bull by its own and say, look, this is exactly what needs to happen. And obviously, I made a lot of lamentations here. I'm calling out Bank of Zambia. I'm calling out the Minister of Agriculture to quickly do what they're supposed to do. I'm calling out the Minister of Energy. Look, what I want to see is predictability. I'll tell you, the prices can't move. Come month end, the prices of diesel go up. No, I want to make these commitments and comment on issues based on an informed position. I need to speak from the strength of statistics, from the strength of having adequate information. Mind you, this is a national staple. We are dealing with people's lives. Therefore, I would not be irresponsible to make a comment that is not backed by any facts. I would not be one of those that would want to mislead the nation, first of all, because I take responsibility for the decisions and the comments that I make because they border on human life. Because I have to carry the responsibility of these other millers that you can't see. They are being represented by me. So whatever I do and whatever we say, I'll tell you just one very interesting thing. There was one miller that introduced a product, which is a premium product and was fetching at a very high price, and we said no, this is the wrong time. It's a good product. Let's hold on to it first of all until the market stabilizes, because people will not be able to say, oh, this is whatever product. All they'll see is the price, and therefore they'll say, hey, the millers are doing that, and we do that. We are very responsible and we are very cautious with what we do because there's an impact directly on our consumers.
All right, the number is 0956 200 490. 0956 200 490 is the number that you can call us. And you have a conversation with our guest. Let's pick up some calls. Good morning. You are through to the program.
Yes, my father. Good morning.
Yes, your name and where are you calling us from?
Wash Precious, good morning, Mr. Chintala.
Wash Precious, good morning, Wakalamba.
Number one, okutulera kuwena Zambia. Atemo okutulera ndapo. Atemo ichalo cha Zambia okutulera ndapo. Things yalera abakateka. Watu okubachubunga 120 watu ulisha. So ininga na isa mupawa. Kesa chita 50 kwacha. Auto ata muri 50 kwacha. Auto ata mwana 350 kwacha. That's why for wena Zambia tulera ndiro bakateka kuti vavika ko subsidy. Na leto ndona kwevati if let's say vakintalanga mbonja pe manzi abalaiti pakutupera ubunga mbonja abalaiti ya 10 pin. Makanya pakati. Mwambo kuonja ma laiti ya 5,000. If 5,000 the government ile vika ko. Which means vachita ko tax. Baba vika ko subsidy. Kuma laiti. Kuma millers. Ukonka no kwafurisha kwa bena Zambia nga wachitecho I know bunga tetu butule because nimbo na amalaiti na adula pakutupera imo pakwa mutupera bunga impya mreposa shingi so bunga tetu butule government ifile ya ufuwa kuwena Zambia because ifola wawikile upalia afibazika kwa masubsidy kuri mwe bama mila kuri mwe bama mila fiwe mushtea mtengo amalaiti mushtea mtengo so tetu mwesho bunga so government ni ya nyotenga chakwa tiyari ufuile kuketulea kwe bantu balipera kwa masubsidy kuma light fee atika ama fiwe kutumule ishikira but kuma light bachefia kwa mtengo wa mseo shako ifindu kufia wabwino so tulela nda atemo fitulelomba.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution. Good morning, you are through to the program.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, your name and where are you calling us from?
Douglas from Solway.
Yes, Mr. Douglas.
Yes, I need to focus on the supportive land of Chintala. Ili papa, like I'm famous Zambians, feel to get move that time. Because don't for the mobility to compare to Hunga MMG 35, but maize younger Pitapo, time MMG, time. So I can have more previous collaboration that HH valid trade of Hunga to 50 quads. But did I at Buka with feeling and 50 but the way she basically is a content. So free trade to accept if in background, then chakula is looking forward. Not that just because the president was doing that show 17, they don't have more out challenges, but because of pressure to government, let's support the government. You have show pay to accept because apanga that support our fishing at almost shupa. Shiva. That one in Coco in Nama, just Mitombo Kuradio Musa. Accepted, not sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution. Great to know that always is listening. Good morning. You answered to the program.
Yes. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. Your name and where are you calling us from?
Okay. I'm Mr. Mianda, and I'm calling you from Osaka, here in Kabanana, Maichola.
Yes. Go ahead with the contribution.
Yes. The guest there. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, please. I think for me here we have a very big problem. It's like you, the millers, and government are not working together. I say so because, whatever decision that you make out there as millers, and whatever decision that government makes has a direct impact on the lives of the people. You see what, just about some 2 years ago, or we were in 2022, Zambia had a bumper harvest, but we still experience these high prices and all that kind of stuff. So really, one would want to find out and ask you, especially the guests there in the studio, what is really the problem? Why can't you just sit on the round table and see how you can mitigate, the prices of Mealie Meal and so that every Zambian can afford. At the moment, sir, I'm telling you that the price of Mealie Meal is way too high for an ordinary Zambian. You should know that there are people, that the people that are sick, people that are not working, elderly people, and all that kind of stuff. You sit on the round table. Otherwise, we are suffering. People are eating once a day. And all that kind of stuff. So please, with me, my plea is that can you sit on the round table and find an amicable solution in as far as the price of Mealie Meal is concerned. I thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your contribution. 0956 200 let me play a voice note that we've received.
Good morning, Angel, and good morning, Mr. Andrew Chintala. I'm Bashmalan in Kitwe. I have a question for you, Mr. Andrew Chintala. Obunga mwali mwana makeji. Obunga mulanda fyokuwa 25 kg, but nga mwapima pasekeo. Ama keji yali baya nono. Ma 19 kg, ama 20 kg. Ngabaze Dennis ubungo chabana west ama keji yali chepa. So mlerundo mutengo ama keji but mlebwesha. So nga mwamu nobunga gwakali. Na refiro kuimya inisaka ka 25 kg. Na kwa 18 years na refiro kuimya. Eno nshito mwana wandi wa 11 years. Mara ni ale imya ka 25 kg. So nishi mwali chefya obunga na kusaka mwali chefya. So nga chako wati mlerundo mutengo. Na kasaka weekend kwa makeji na makeji na inakuwa ni makeji. Haiko ni fiawa. Zikomo.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution, Ashmalan. Great to know that you are listening. All right, this other text message says, good morning, enjoying the program. There is need for the millers to put the people first. Prices of Mealie Meal are too high. Joe from Kito. Thank you so much, Joe. This other one says, good morning, Mr. Chintala. I've listened to you and I have understood, but the Minister of Agriculture seems to be incompetent and is not concerned with the affairs of Zambians. Thank you so much. No name for this particular text message. This other one says, good morning. Listening to the program. It is sad that the current Mealie Meal prices are this high and it seems there's no way back. Thank you so much. These are the contributions that we've had, and I would allow you to respond to
Right.
Interventions, yeah.
The last caller, probably I'll start from there. The last shall be first. It says, look, it's sad that the Mealie Meal prices are currently high, and I think that's the sad reality that we have to face. And I've tried to labor so much in terms of explaining exactly what probably constitutes the price of Mealie Meal that is currently obtaining on the market. I sympathize with a number of people that cannot afford, but obviously that unfortunately is a sad reality and the sad side of things. However, notwithstanding that, please be encouraged. You've seen that there's been some intervention by government through the Eagles brand, which has been offloaded. And if you're in Quito, obviously you've seen that there's been Eagles Mealie Meal that is being distributed in Quito. Joel obviously has a concern to say the underweights. That's a very serious statement or probably concern that has been raised. I would like to assure you, Joel, that I'll take this up. How I wish that you could have also probably given us the brand of that specific Mealie Meal that you bought and that you feel that is an underweight. Packing something, or I think let me just take a little bit more on this one. I'd like to obviously speak to Joe and the consumers writing on his question that, look, under the Zambia Metrology Department, this is an institution, a state institution that is established by law that has got the mandate to ensure that your product, first of all, is labeled correctly. If it's a 12 kg, it should read 12 kg. And we've seen, I think, in the previous would pack Mealie Meal in a bag that says at packing time, it was 12. So when it goes in the market, whether it's 10 kgs, you say, look, the time we are weighing it, it was 10. And now, because of that, I think we have an institution that is responsible to ensure that the consumers are protected from such vices. And I'd speak to you, my brother, that look, the issue of underweights is a very serious offense, and those millers and all the millers that sit under the umbrella of the Millers Association of Zambia really know that this is a very strong and big offense in as far as the Zambian laws are concerned, because once your product is found, whichever way, wherever, either through an agent, the supermarket, when Zambia Meteorological Agency finds it there and then it's an underweight, the miller will be fined. Regardless of where the commodity is, we take responsibility. So if you feel like the product that you bought really is an underweight, I think that is something that even ourselves will put in check. But I can assure you, if you were to visit any of the milling companies, you will see that our machines are automated. From production, you see that it goes through a scale to ensure that you get the right and correct quantity that is labeled on the bag, so that a consumer is paying for the right price and the right quantity. We do value that, and we do not encourage, and I think cheating is not part of our business. Hence, we ensure that we package the correct commodity as labeled on the bag. It's as good as saying this is breakfast and we give you the roller product. We don't do that. And once that is discovered, even us as an association, we take very, very punitive measures against such ailing members. As for Eagles, they are players. They may not be members of MAS, but they're equally subjected to the same rules. And I really don't think that is there, but I think it's an eye-opener. I would encourage the command at ZNS to ensure that we follow through and check what's happening. But without even the command, we would like to get the Zambia Metrology Agency to quickly move in and ensure that during a period like this, let's protect the interests of consumers in ensuring that they pay for the right commodity and obviously the right weight or the right price. Maybe you are lifting it with one hand and all that. You know, you were not where you were, but obviously those are some of the things.
His son is having more strength than he was.
Than he was, yeah, sure. Bashmelan, that's Bashmelan in Kitwe. And the other one is Mr. Mianda from Kabanana. The problem is that government and millers are not sitting together. That's not true, my brother. We interact with government, and unfortunately, obviously, some of us, the style of engagement in terms of engaging in dialogue is different from that of going on the mountain and just announce it. So we believe that there is also quite diplomacy in addressing some of the issues. There are certain issues that may alarm a nation, especially when they are dealing with national food staples. So we have a way of engaging. And if you've seen, this is why I talked about getting some of the private millers to help ZNS. That means we're engaging. And I think I don't really expect that you would expect any other level of interaction and engagement in talking to each other and supporting what government's intention is. There is one that I just demonstrated. We'll continue engaging. I hear you. Probably we're not engaging enough. I think we'll try and do more from us as millers in terms of addressing issues that concerns the Zambians. I hear you, and I sympathize. Yes, the prices have gone up, but I think we'll continue with stakeholder engagement, government and other players to address that issue. Douglas from Solwezi says he supports and accept that let's support and accept that prices of commodities have gone up, and I think that's very progressive, Douglas, and I really wish to say, look, let's continue interacting and engaging where you are. Look, I've always given an example, Angel, like, look, the price of the cost of the fare, bus fare for moving from Solwezi to Lusaka 10 years ago probably could have been 35 kwacha or 50 kwacha. What is the cost today? And now do we expect to see the cost of 35 coming back? I absolutely doubt it. It can happen, but obviously that doesn't mean that, look, it's what I'm saying is the prices may come down, but not to the levels of I think unreasonable figures that obviously people would want to argue. Bash Precious is Kitwe. The president promised us low prices and everything. Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I'm not competent enough to speak on behalf of the president. I'm not either a spokesperson. But all I'm trying to say to you, my brother, is that the president has gotten into the office. He sat down and he's interrogated some of the things. And obviously, this that is happening here in terms of commodity prices going up is not only in Zambia. Fuel prices, fertilizer prices, grain prices, these are global issues. And as a result of that, I think the president has got other areas, priority areas where they want to push in the little resources from the resource envelope that they have in terms of development and all that. So they have a priority and he has to make that decision, and I wouldn't want to get into that space. But all I'm trying to say to you is that, yes, I hear you are talking of why don't they introduce the subsidies through ZESCOL, and maybe once that is done, I'm sure it can cushion the impact. Those are all progressive and welcome measures. Obviously, that should have a timeline to it because this is a national food staple. So there could be other interventions that have to be encouraged to be undertaken, and I really hear you and I support that, and I hope that government is tuned in and they're listening. But not only through the program, we also engage and we interact. I happen to be privileged to sit on the National Stock Monitoring Committee. That is a national committee that obviously comprises a number of captains of the industry in the food space, and our voice is quite loud in there, and we contribute and we advise. So it's all up to government to take the advice or not to take it. But obviously, in terms of engagement with government, I think these are meetings that are held on a weekly basis. We are doing that. So clearly, the issue that you've raised, that prices were promised, it was, I don't know what price, but 50 definitely kwacha. 50 kwacha. Yeah. But this is why I'm saying, if the price of transportation from Solwezi to Lusaka or from Tendele to town has moved from 5 kwacha, it's now 20 or 25, how I pray that for the day when the prices will get back to, I think what we need to advocate for now is that we need to have stable prices and I think affordable prices, but not to the tune of 50. It's unpractical. I think probably it could be possible, but not. It's impossible. Anyway, it's impossible. It's impossible. You can't really.
Okay, Mr. Chintala, thank you so much for coming through. We have to leave. It's almost 11. Thank you so much, and hopefully we do host you for another chat back. Just to see the latest on how the importation of this maize is going and whatnot. Thank you so much for coming.
Angel, thank you so much for having us here, and God bless you. Thank you for extending this platform to us. I hope we've been of help to the larger people that were tuned in and listening in. They've learned one or two things, but let's continue engaging even after this. We are always reachable and ready to respond to whatever concerns. Thank you so much once again.
All right, this is where we come to the end of today's edition of Chatback. Next is the news at 11, and then Chipo comes on with today's edition of Lifestyle. Chatback is next back into your speakers on Friday at 09:15, so make sure you do tune in and catch Chatback on Friday. Remember to share Jesus boldly. Good morning.
Chatback on RCV News.